All right. If you can hear me, put one hand into the air and just wave it like you don't care.
That's right.
I think that's where we're supposed to stop. Um, all right. Let me not get in trouble. Hi, live stream. This is where you get in trouble. If you can hear me, clap once. Okay, we only need it once. Wait, no, one more time. If you can hear me, clap once. Okay, great. Okay, so we're getting to the exciting part of the day, right? Where we get to understand what's gonna happen with a little bit of the stuff that was said. What's gonna happen with a lot of the stuff that was said, right? And so we're gonna kick off by hearing from folks at the federal agencies. What are some of the things that they learned? What was some of the aha moments, an action item that folks can bring forward?
It can be as big as I worked with someone on a policy idea, or I helped get youth at my school register to vote and engaged in a key community issue. It can be whatever you'd like. But first, we want to call on the Department of Health and Human Services. Is the Department of Health and Human Services in the house? That was so lovely and enthusiastic.
Oh, come.
All right, give us 1 to 2 takeaways that you'll be taking back to your agency.
Okay, so I'm Charlene, I'm from the CDC, and I'm speaking on behalf of all my fun friends over here from Health and Human Services. So that's like places like the CDC, Medicaid, SAMHSA, which does mental health, HRSA, which does like health centers. So here are our 2 key takeaways. The first is around listening and engaging young people as our lived experience partners. Thanks for that new phrase that I learned today. And importantly, from all of our agencies, looking more into how we can more consistently compensate them for their expertise and time. And we're making a commitment to exploring how we can do more of this regularly across HHS. Some of the ideas that came up today, sort of aha moments, were things like, how could we have young people with lived experience be part of our grant reviews, for example, at our agencies. And then our second takeaway for today is we commit to turning these conversations we've had today into action. And a couple areas that we've been thinking about as we've been in the rooms with you all are thinking about peer supports and really how our agencies can do more to support and foster more peer support programs. 2, working to communicate and tell stories with young people that, as someone said earlier, could save lives and heal communities. And then finally, thinking about the workforce and you all. We just had a great conversation about internships at our agencies. And so please do come approach us if any of you all are interested in learning more about joining the Health and Human Services family. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so let's be very clear. She just set the stage like there's no tomorrow. And so I'm gonna call up the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and I'm gonna encourage you to match the energy. Let's match the energy there. Okay, I was about to say, is HUD coming out?
You did.
Hey everybody, my name is Caitlin Morath, she, her pronouns. I'm from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So we were thrilled to bring a big team here today. We learned a lot of things. To just summarize one of them, we talked a lot about job opportunities, internship opportunities, paying youth. I want to say that I actually had a conversation with another federal colleague because we've been trying to figure out our funding structure, and they had an idea and we're connecting, so we have a funding structure to actually move forward with some of our representation in our federal office. So that's been an issue we've been working on for years and excited to have a real tangible, current coming solution for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your words and also for your awesome walk up here.
Yes.
All right, next we have the Department of Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security. Is there anybody here who would like to? Beautiful.
Hello, everyone. Corinda Washington with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Headquarters, Executive Director for Social Impact and Campaigns. And I am very intentional because one of our interns, we flew him in from the University of California, Irvine, Thage Thaker. And so we are sharing this stage and sharing this readout today. One of the things that we're taking back is expanding the use of our Youth Preparedness Council that the Federal Emergency Management Agency has, which FEMA headquarters is right across the street, if you did not know. But looking to expand youth voices in our advisory councils is one of the big takeaways that we took, and so we're looking to that. We do utilize and leverage lived experience experts, particularly around human trafficking and human trafficking awareness, not elevating voices to just share a story, but also to train our special agents, train our investigators in our investigation process. So how do we implement lived experience experts, youth, young adults, into the work and the policy that we're doing? So looking to expand our lived experience network to include youth and young adults. The grant review, yes, because it's paid. It's paid, and I want to say that again, it's paid. The grant reviews was really good. We do a lot of grants. FEMA has grants, nonprofit security grants, programs that we have around the country, and so how do we ensure that our lived experience partners are a part of our grant review, grant making, grant development? We'll be taking that back as well. And we talked about passing the mic, sharing the mic. I'm passing it.
Hi guys, my name is Thage, and I'm from California. And just on the topic of passing the mic, I was passed the mic by Miss Washington when I got this internship at Homeland Security. And it gives an example of one of the biggest points that were spoken about today, which were youth advisory boards in federal government or in state government or even in city government. And I think internships are the best way for us, the youth, to give our opinion, give our facts that we believe that can provide change. And at the same time, I think the best way to guarantee you guys that the youth are there for the best is the fact that if you just understand the way we think, we don't think about just self-growth or just getting where we want to be. Rather, we grow together as a team. I personally like to say that we're leaders that grow together per step rather than grow on our own. Or one of the things I said in another breakout session was that we do not like to crush other souls and get on the top. We don't like stepping on people to get on top. We like taking the entire team to get on the top. And personally, I think that if I were to do an exercise right now, it would be that if I gave each one of you a balloon right now and a pin that allows you to pop other people's balloons and said that the person who has the balloon at the end gets $10,000, I would say that the youth were more likely to not pop the balloon. And in fact, they'd advocate to tell you guys that no one should pop the balloon because everyone would get $10,000 in the end. And that's why we're here, to help everyone grow together.
I'll be working for him.
Okay, so it's very clear that the Department of Homeland Security brought it. They did. And so now we are in the Department of Ed's building, so I don't know how Department of Ed's gonna match all that energy from 3 people, but we're expecting it. Drop the mic or something, throw it, no, I'm playing.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm Megan Whitaker. I'm at the Department of Education. We learned so much from everyone in this room today. I don't think I can capture it all right now in just a couple of minutes. But some of the things that I'm really sitting with and that our team is reflecting on today are really going to shape how we think about our policy decisions and the grant programs that we fund to support youth and their families. Some of those include this idea about how we strengthen school and community collaboration, and we take a holistic approach to supporting individual needs so that we're serving youth and their families and the adults who support them in schools and other settings, so that we can both better understand young people as a whole and then better collaborate across systems to serve them, and then measure what we're doing, measure in ways that matter to young people and that support their life outcomes and the path that they may be taking. And our systems are not currently designed to do this. We recognize that. And so we're really thankful for all the collaboration of the other federal partners here today so that we can really co-design new systems that really capture the measures that we know matter to young people. I also want to reflect on some things that I think should drive all of the work of our federal agencies, and that is data, and making sure that we're relying on data that centers marginalized communities, that really focuses in on individual identity and their communities, and then that we disseminate that data and we disseminate the research from it so that we are making sure that others are using it as well. And then really focusing on pockets of success. Who is doing this work well? Who are those innovative people in this room right now who have programs worth sharing? And how do we provide funding that scales those approaches? It's not enough to just fund lots of work across the country, but to really invest in the places that are doing new and exciting things in a way that matters to young people. But the most important thing I want to announce today, we heard you loud and clear. It is not enough to just talk today and have this conversation in this space, but to really follow through on action and the commitments we're making. And so 6 months, the Department of Ed is committed to reconvening all of us virtually so that we can all check in with each other to hear about how our work has been going locally and nationally, and to share out more updates and remain committed to this work and keep it going forward from here. So I'm really excited to see what we've all done in the next 6 months and to share out again then.
Amazing. We need a little bit more energy than that. They did forgive $135 billion of student loans. So that is the mic drop. Okay.
Thank you very much, Megan. Thank you. And thank you for that commitment to follow through. That will be one of the more important words that we want to walk away with today. Now I'm calling on the Department of Labor. Department of Labor. I wish we could play some music.
We can sing.
Oh. I won't subject anyone to that.
Thank you.
Of course.
Hi, everybody. My name's Amanda. I work at the U.S. Department of Labor in the Division of Youth Services on the Youth Build team, and I am an analyst, and I'm a macro-level social worker, so systems-wide social work. And this is...
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Randy Copeland. I'm the youth lead for the Office of Apprenticeship. So I wanted to kind of talk about some of the common themes and the aha moments that we heard. So one of the common themes was around youth voices, making sure that your voices are heard, that your opinions are not something that's an afterthought, but something that is going on in unison with leadership and that you're working one-on-one. Another common theme I heard was around internships and paid experiences, that everyone feels like if you can do the job, you deserve to be compensated accordingly. Another thing is wraparound services or supportive services. We know that it's important to meet young people where they are in life. For some, that might look like you have other things that you have to take care of, whether that's children or whether that's other life barriers that prevent you from doing your job. Some of the recommendations and policies that we can then take in action to help support these kind of aha moments is the Office of Apprenticeship is always about equitable workforce solutions. When I'm talking about registered apprenticeship, these are paid job experiences that combine on-the-job learning with related training and instruction through higher education. So it's not a matter of creating a one-time opportunity for you to get a job, but for us to work collaboratively with our federal partners at the Department of Education to create these economical systems where we create pathways for young people to work from the high school level and create a job where you are knowing that opportunities exist while you're still young and while you're in school, where you're not forced to choose between having to just go to school or no other option. It's important that we spread the word on our end and increase awareness. We are very dedicated to making sure that young people are a part of this process. For the Office of Apprenticeship, we've created a new initiative called our Apprentice Trailblazers Initiative, where we put young people at the forefront. These young adult apprentices are working with us on work boards and listening sessions where we can show and highlight all the great work that young people do to help spread the word of the next generation of what the workforce looks like. Another common theme that we heard was about making sure that there's opportunities for young people to be at the table when it comes to local and state level implementation. We think that we should take that idea one step further. Let's make this paid apprenticeship programs. Let's make federal apprenticeship programs where these young people are not just working, but they're working to be, they are government officials that will lead the charge for that. You will see yourself in our positions. You will see yourself in the Department of Education positions where all these great skills and knowledge base that you want to share with the world can be implemented. In support of these efforts and not just kind of talking the talk, we are also announcing that we have our first ever National Youth Focus Apprenticeship Week this year. May 5th through 11th, we're encouraging a way to highlight how powerful the youth are and that you are the workforce solution for tomorrow. So I'm really proud to be here as someone that came up through a similar situation and was given the opportunity to have mentors and to have people to really help show me the way. And I hope everyone will take advantage of all of the great mentors in the room. And if we can ever be assistance and you have any interest in what we do at the Department of Labor, you feel free to reach out to us as well. I'll pass it over.
Thank you, that was great. So I wanted to start off with a very specific conversation I was able to have with youth that really was a big aha moment for me. So I heard this incredible quote in one of my breakout rooms from a youth here who said, I'm going to misquote a little bit, but it's going to be, what's the point of having a seat at the table if the table is not accessible to reach? And that really stuck with me, and I was thinking about the relationship to the workforce recruitment program. The workforce recruitment program is a federal program associated with our friends over at Office of Disability Employment Policy, ODEP. And it's a program that gives opportunities for graduating students of any level in terms of associates, bachelor's, graduate, PhD, the opportunity who have disabilities to end up in jobs with federal service. It's a competitive process. I am a recruiter for this program, and I'm also an alumna of this program. So this program means a ton to me, and it's something I want to continue to see grow. However, something I've realized over the years is that the last 2 years I've been recruiting is that so many people are not aware of this program. And the more people that be aware of this program, the more applications we have in the database, the more people who are connected to resources. And ultimately what this group who talked about, we need to really highlight the idea that these jobs are available. Workforce recruitment program can connect you with jobs around the country, temporary positions, paid internships, because that's important accessibility-wise, and that's something we should focus on. And I think ultimately what that was really showing me was that, if folks can't reach those resources equitably, more than just being able to receive resources. If you don't know about it, that's not equitable by any means. You have to be aware of the resources out there in order to take advantage of them. And I really, really loved learning that from the youth in my room. A couple other things that I and my colleagues learned at the Department of Labor. One, we heard a lot about third spaces, which we thought was a really cool comment, because first, I guess I personally have always thought of I was making space in terms of figuratively, but I love that this was about okay, why not that, and also literal spaces where we can exist without judgment and we can share ideas. And it's not a school setting, it's not a home setting. Home settings could be unsafe or just not good places to interact with other people. So let's come up with real spaces where we can exist, first off, and then thrive. And then one of the last things I thought was very, very notable, and I loved hearing it, was this idea that a lot of us saw about youth mentioning and being aware of the concept that if there is community trauma, there has to be community healing. Trauma is not an internal thing. You have to reach out to the underlying problems and underlying opportunities, right? It's not just underlying problems. So I think, the strengths that we all have as communities and as people. And I love that, especially, again, as a macro social worker, that this is, it's not something, a mental health issue, trauma is not something necessarily related to a personal reaction to a traumatic event, right? It's a community-based, systems-based problem, and I thought that was really fantastic. And lastly, Renee told us a little bit about Office of Apprenticeship is going to be doing. I had this really great opportunity to hear about how Job Corps, one of the biggest, most famous programs at the Department of Labor, is looking into creating a youth task force. And this is something that, again, this is a big program, flagship program, really well known. It would be really, really, really cool to get some direct youth voice on there in that capacity in terms of an advisory board. So we're really, really happy that we were able to learn about all sorts of things like that. And then finally, I just wanted to say that the last thing that really, really stuck was the language use of amplifying voices. One of our, we had a couple folks out there who mentioned this. Amplifying voices, not empowering. You're not helping, you're walking alongside. Even if this is supportive services, if this is social work, if this is case management, people have their own power. People have autonomy. It's not about you working to display that or find that or give it to someone. It's about making sure you walk alongside them so they can find it themselves because they already have it. And that point really stuck out to me, that it is important on the language we use, even in terms of technical assistance projects, and how we address case management, things like that. So I learned a lot today. I thank you, Randy, for speaking with me, and thanks.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you.
Alrighty, we have one more department, and that is the Department of Justice. Keep going, keep going. Clap, clap, clap. Woo!
Hello. Thank you. Okay, thank you for the energy sticking with us at the end. Not enviable to be the last federal agency to speak, but I want to start off really and truly with a thank you to all the youth who came here today and shared their voices and expertise and experience. I think it's so critical to really dwell on that and not just skip over that into what we're going to do next, because we heard so much in each of these sessions that were extremely powerful and at the same time incredibly vulnerable and just so valuable to how we can move forward as a country and society. And so thank you for being willing to do that and share those experiences and help us policymakers make sure that we're doing it in a way that's proximate with you and your experiences. So a huge thanks to all of you. So justice, as you know, it's a really privilege. There's many of my colleagues here today and many more who are excited to continue to engage in these conversations with you. We're an agency that is named after a value, a mission, expanding and ensuring justice. And it's just such a privilege to get to work at a place that is really a value-based organization. And we've heard so much today about the desire to not only be at the table, but be heard at the table, and also to have power at that table, right? And so I want to share some of the things that we are already doing along those lines and some of the things we want to keep doing as we go. So I also want to make sure we have an Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. Many of you met Liz Ryan, who's been here all day today as well, but dedicated 100% to this work. And so some of that, what we're doing already, is that we have youth consultants who advise us on all of our operations and our programming. And this is a really great time for this conversation because we're starting to think through our programming and our grants for this next cycle. So this is a great time for us to hear from you and to keep having these conversations. You talked a lot about peer reviewing for grants. We do have young adults who work with us as peer reviewers for our grants. We want to think about how we can continue expanding that. We are really focused on having youth with lived experience as part of not only our programming, but also helping us to craft our grant applications. We have a Youth Justice Fellowship, and again, these are just a small amount of the things that we do and want to continue to build on in these conversations with you. And we know it's critical that it can't be one conversation that we have today. We have a lot of listening sessions that involve our work, but we know that one of the main commitments we want to make coming out of today is to continue to expand these conversations. So we're going to work with the organizers here to make sure there's opportunities for those who are really interested in the justice policy specifically to keep helping us inform our work, to have some additional listening sessions going forward. So thank you so much for everything today.
Okay, now that we've gotten the federal departments, not necessarily out of the way, but complete, we're going to hear from a couple of other committed organizations. We have Andrew Fellini and Zoe Stem-Calderon. If the two of you are here, we'll have you come up at the same time and speak about your commitments. Thank you. Andrew is from the Center for the Developing Adolescent, and he will be announcing a CDA policy tool. Zoe is for the funders for Adolescent Science Translation, and she is announcing new funding. Thank you.
Good afternoon, you all. It's been so great to be in community with you all day. My name is Zoe Stem-Calderon. My pronouns are she, her, and I work at the Rakes Foundation. We're one of the members of the Funders for Adolescent Science Translation, which are the funders that supported this conference and learning and work together today. And we're not done. What we want to announce is that we'll be offering a follow-up investment to help carry forward the policy ideas and partnerships from this summit. So we will provide $600,000 in new investments over the next year, with over $400,000 that will be dedicated to micro grants for organizations who are connected to the summit, to do follow-up work, to more deeply together on advancing federal youth policy. So hopefully you've made friends with people here, or you can still get on the WOVA app and make connections, and you'll have opportunities to apply for resources to keep this work going. So we're really excited about that. And I want to thank the Funders for Adolescent Science Translation. Just like it takes every one of these agencies and all of us working together collectively to really make change. In the funding space, we don't do much together if we don't move together. And the FAST Collaborative has just been a really awesome collaborative of funders really trying to learn from young people, learn from what we understand about adolescent development to support real systems change. And you've really helped us to keep learning and moving together in the future. So those funders are the Annie E. Casey Foundation, the Bezos Family Foundation, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, the Ford Foundation, the Hemera Foundation, the Conrad and Hilton Foundation, Hope Lab, Pivotal Ventures, the Rakes Foundation, Springpoint Partners, the Seattle Foundation, and the Stewart Foundation. And a thank you to all of you for being engaged with this work, and we're excited to be releasing that funding opportunity after the event.
Hi, I'm Andrew Fellini. I'm with the UCLA Center for the Developing Adolescent. I have no money to give you. Tough to follow that act. I am privileged to be the co-director of UCLA CDA along with Adriana Gavan, who you heard about earlier this morning. I also have the opportunity to work with Joanna Williams, who you also heard this morning. If you really enjoyed their tasty nuggets of science that they had to offer you this morning, boy, do I have a tool for you. So, all of you probably saw this card on the chair that you walked in on to see. We are excited to announce that this spring we're going to be releasing this very useful online tool to get more science into the hands of policymakers and practitioners like all of you. It's called Steps for Youth. That's science to enhance policy success for youth. It's going to include a number of different elements. We've worked with different policymakers and practitioners. We also worked with Child Focus, who's in the house here somewhere. So thank you again for that assistance. It's going to include a number of elements. It's going to have a check-in with science-informed questions to spark conversations and provide ideas on how to enhance policies for youth. There's going to be a resource library in which you can find fact sheets that offer more in-depth discussion of developmental needs of adolescents. It's going to include science spotlights to provide deeper dives into how the science of adolescent development and brain development can relate to specific policy and practice issues. We're also going to have opportunities to contact us for further information about adolescent development, and also the opportunity for you to feed back to us about the kind of information you would like to hear more science about, and so on, and so on, and so on. I will also say that, fortunately, we work with frameworks a great deal, and if you enjoyed what Nat had to say earlier today, we've been a very strong, I shouldn't say strong, we've been a eager student of Nat and Marissa and the other folks at frameworks in order to think about how we can talk about the science in effective ways. Scientists historically have been some of the worst framers of adolescence, and frankly, no, I should say they've been very effective at framing a particular way to respond to certain contingencies that they faced. But instead, they've contributed to sort of this negative framing of adolescence historically. So we work with them a great deal, and hopefully you'll find our information useful as you move forward in your work. What else do I need to say? It's going to be available this spring. You can use the QR code on the back of the card to register, to sign up, so we can get that released to you when it's available. So thanks again.
All righty. So, earlier in this corner, we were having a conversation on, what's going to be the action on all of this, right? What's going to happen with so much? And me and my nerdy self went to we're planting seeds for a 3 to 5 year strategy. And then there's some things you can do immediately. But what stuck out to me was when we heard each of the agencies come up here and the 2 additional commitments, I started to write down, because I forget a lot, which is we heard people say they're going to edit their program. That's a pretty big thing, right? Like, we're going to change a bit of how we're doing stuff. We heard people say we're going to establish more youth voice, or we're going to include folks. That's a shift. That doesn't always happen until we got it on camera. For all of you who work at a federal agency, everybody wave to the camera, high live audience. We heard folks talk about their grants are coming up. So many times that was said. And that means tens of millions of dollars just got informed by some of the work that some of the things that you just shared today. I want that to sit with you. Okay, more of you clap. That's your cue. Okay, great. The other thing I would say is, one of the things that I have experienced, 2010 is when I started this. I shave every day. And I have been a part of a lot of convenings, and sometimes we come to convenings, and that is the moment. You convene and you go. So to hear that there's intentionality to bring people back together virtually, most times what I've seen is you pick the 5, 10 people out of the crew, and then you continue with them. And so for folks to be here thinking about a strategy that is intentional about how do you make it inclusive, how do you make it virtual, well, we know connection is the start of a movement. And so for all of you to be connected to this work and to keep going, I believe speaks a lot of volume around the values of the people who are in the room. So I really just want to take a moment for the organizers, for the federal agencies who've committed to that, to the funders who are making that possible, to just take a moment to just really give it up for them for being intentional about that bridge.